In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
Welcome, everybody. Merrill Chandler here, your host of the Get Fundable podcast, the Get Fundable universe, and the man who's willing to walk side by side with you as you explore the principles of fundability and how you can improve your life. I have got I've thought about sharing this subject with you for as long as I've been doing a podcast, and it's time, and I want to share it with you. So when we come back, we'll be talking about a near-death experience that I had in a very violent part of the world, and how it speaks to fundability. So when we come back, I'll see you in just a second. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. All right. Woo! Do I have an exciting episode for you today? As I said in the intro, this is a very powerful experience that I had in my life, and where my instincts kicked in, my intuition kicked in, and it saved my life. So in this episode, we're going to talk about intellect and intuition and instinct, and how do these things wrap up in put a nice little bow on it for how to serve your financial end game. All right. So let me give you a little backstory on this. I don't know how I end up in these situations, but I'm gonna have you walk with me here. So back in 1996, 97, we were the three founders of Lexington Law Firm. I've told you about Lexington Law Firm. Well, we weren't just business partners, man. We played paintball together. Steve, Jason, and myself, we played paintball together. We did hobbyist amateur archaeology. I mean, we had all kinds of things that we did together, best of friends. And so one day, my friend Steve gets a phone call, and it is this gentleman, a writer from the from Outside Magazine. Now, the article that he wrote, casting forward here, the article he wrote ended up in a different magazine, but fascinating story. Steve calls me up and he goes, "Merrill, I don't know what to say to these guys. We were referred to Outside Magazine, to this artist, this author, and a photographer, because they were looking to explore the archaeology of Mesoamerica, right? Southern Mexico, northern Guatemala. It's where Tikal is, Palenque, some of these amazing Mayan ruins. And Steve, who is way more of an enthusiast than I was referred by some folks down at Brigham Young University as adventurers who would go on this trip, right? We're not real archaeologists, we're not real anthropologists, but we are real adventurers. And so when he was referred to on this trip, Steve was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, hell yes, let's freaking go. So the three of us talked, Steve, Jason, and myself, and it was on. We had the conversation with the outside crew, and we scheduled a time to be able to go on this excursion, on this adventure. So the goal was to go to Palenque, which is in southern Mexico, in a state called Chiapas. Palenque, San Cristobal. There's some beautiful cities, amazing foothills. I lived 2 years in Guatemala in a missionary mode, and so I was familiar with the southern Mayan, the Yucatan Peninsula version of this. But now this was all in Chiapas, and so they invited us to go and kind of be their guides on a very interesting thing. The topic was how does the LDS or the Mormon culture surrounding some of the scripture embraced by the Mormons, how does it relate to southern Mexico, through this area? Is there a correlation? Is there, and there's all kinds of theories that and none of which I'll get into here, but I was all ready for the adventure of it. So we schedule our time, we get down there, and it was an amazing opportunity. Outside Magazine hosted the entire thing, and I was ready. It was going to be a blast. Well, unbeknownst to us, in that there are conflicts in the world going on that don't make the media attention, and this was the case in Chiapas, Mexico. The Zapatistas were a local group. Really, the Zapatistas didn't really go into any other of the Mexican states. It was the indigenous population of Chiapas, basically rebelling against the wanting to create more rights and opportunities inside of their state. Again, politics aside, I just know that they were well armed. I don't even know who was arming them, but they were extremely well armed. Well, we were literally, we were headed for Chiapas, and all of the mountains, all of the ruins we were going to be examining were smack dab in the in this, how would you call it, in this war zone, I guess is no better way to say it. Well, let's bracket here. Hold that. So have you noticed that there's kind of 3 centers of your person, right? Some people call it the heart and the mind, right? Heart and the mind. Some say brain and heart. Well, I propose, and I'm not the first one to do so, I propose that there's actually 3 centers of our person. And even in my boot camp, I talk about my boot camp, I talk about the creative genius, right? The creative, the heart, the artist, the relationship builder, and the strategist. But this episode is about the 3 centers, and so I call it the intellect, intuition, and instinct. And many of us, me especially, man, I operate from intellect all the time, just go. And I've been over the last decade or 2, I've had to actually consciously develop more of my intuition, develop more of my heart, develop more my heart space more. What is common and natural to every single one of us is also our instinct. How many of us have that gut reaction, right? I talk about it in the boot camp, where you run into a deal and you're looking at it and you're like, maybe the numbers don't make sense, but this feels right. That's your instinct. That's your gut. So now we have the mind, the heart, and the gut. All right. Well, let me continue with my story. So we're leaving Palenque, this amazing set of ruins. We're leaving Palenque, and we come up to and we're heading up into San Cristobal in Chiapas. And we needed to stay the night at one of these local places, and Mexico, Guatemala, Central America, the places that I'm familiar with. I mean, having lived there, there's these places that they're not hotels. They're like, it's like a precursor to Airbnb, where people would have extra rooms, and you ask them, hey, is there anybody that has a rooms to rent? And you say, oh yeah, these folks over here, go over there. So many times somebody who has a home opens their house to feed you and put you down for the night. It's way cool, right? But these are in villages. These are not towns or inside of they're called pueblitos, and a pueblo is a town, right? A ciudad is a city. These were small villages. So we're headed. We're coming from Palenque. We're coming through this mountainous terrain, and we're on a dirt road, and we pull up into this town, and we're like, we go in and we started asking, hey, where can we grab comida? Where can we get some food? And do you have any rooms to rent? And there was the people that we talked to, there was a nervousness with them that I'd never, it was weird, you guys. Never had I seen, you watch movies, whatever, somebody's sketchy. This was not sketch. This was not somebody being sketchy. This is somebody terrified for their life. And all we're doing now, we're like 5 gringos, right? The writer, the photographer, and the 3 of Jason and Steve and myself. They were terrified, and I had no clue what was going on. And so we asked them. They said, no aquí, not here. There's no food here, no rooms here. So we walked across the little plaza, literally, and it's true. Every single pueblo, every single village has a town center. And as an aside, a common dating practice down there is you go on couples, even young couples, walk chaperoned around the circle of each one of these town squares, right? So there's town square. There's kind of like not a gazebo, but a little stage where musicians would play or whatever, just a cool little town square. And so we walked across the town square to another place, and somebody said, yes, we have something here that you could stay, rooms and food. But they were nervous. And we're looking at each other going, something's not right. And so I'm asking, I'm kind of bold that way. I'm like, ¿Qué pasa? What is going on? Está nervioso. Why is everybody so nervous? And it was like, oh, nada. It's okay. Nothing. And we all looked at each other, and we kind of circled up, and we're like, something is not right. Now, this was not the domain of the intellect, because it's just a town. We've been to dozens of towns on this trip. It's just a little pueblo, lots of good people. I love the especially when you get out of the cities. Love the Mexican people. Love the Guatemalan people. I mean, I spent time in El Salvador or San Salvador, and so we looked at each other, and the intellect didn't have anything to grab onto. It was like business as usual. We do this every day. We always stayed at these little in people's homes, in cuartos, the rooms that they have for their for people coming through town. Now remember, we came through on a dirt road from the equivalent of the jungle. It was just from Palenque, where we were hailing from. So intellect had nothing to hold on to. Intuition had nothing to hold on to. It was like, what do we do? What's instinct, however, it was so bizarre what was going on inside of my body. It was so, they say your your stomach liquefies. Like it was, there was a there was such an energy. I had nothing to be scared of, but there was such a strange energy going on inside of me that my instinct said, yeah, we're out of here. And so I proposed that to my compañeros, right? Everybody, our small group. And in every way, people were like, something's not right. So we still had the intellect conversation, but the instinct was, okay, get out. So we left town the way we had come, and we were heading for San Cristobal. Found another place to stay later on in the evening. No harm, no foul. So think of it as kind of a why. We left town, went to another town. This was more of a size of a town rather than a village. We stayed the night. The next morning, we leave San Cristobal, and we're kind of, think of it as a triangle. We're coming back down a different road, and we are confronted by a tank, 2 personnel carriers, and soldiers. Now we're 5 gringos in the middle of Chiapas during the middle of this uprising. We get stopped, and we're they kind of check our papers, right? Check our passports and everything. And we're like, what's going on? Because for us to continue would be to go into this town through the paved road instead of the back road we'd seen. What's going on? Nothing. Please turn around and come back the way you came, or go back the way you came. Please turn around and go back the way you came. That's all they would say. We go back to San Cristobal. We just wait another day, because to drive back to the airport to go home, we have to go along this route. We passed the next day. We returned. No tanks, no personnel characters, no armed military. So we go back into the town, and in the town square, there was blood markings everywhere. And we found that this had been a place where the Zapatistas had a hold, whatever it was, and they had executed, I think it was like 45 people in that village, in that town square, the night or the morning after we would have stayed the night, and we would have attempted to leave, but we were in there when they did their raid in the early morning. We are given, we have, whatever you believe in the gods, the universe, the divine, we are given these 3 areas of our person for a reason, and each one of them have a different a motivation, a different come from, a different role to play. Each one of these 3 areas have a job to do. The intellect is higher functioning. It's making sure that we can analyze and compare features and benefits, and notice and make decisions based on value judgments. Intuition is to be able to connect with others and be empathetic and compassionate and read and feel the energy that's going on with other people in our lives, so that we have more information to make a decision with, right? It's the creative part of us. It's the connective part of us. Instinct is freaking fight or flight. And I am so glad to this day, you guys, that we chose flight, because I don't know what would have happened being American citizens, et cetera, et cetera. But a few dozen people were executed in that town square, and we saw it and we felt it when we were driving back into that village. It was the ugliest feeling I've ever personally felt in my body. All the doors were closed. We didn't see a soul. And so we kept going. But so some of your intellects are going, so how are you going to make this about fundability, Merrill? Here's the thing. Don't ignore any part of us. Don't let your intellect, the deals we do, the partnerships we grow, the things we engage in as part of our vision for our lives. You guys, many of us are intellect heavy. I have been for the vast majority. I don't know, maybe it took me a few decades to get it right, but I have finally tapped into my intuition, listened to my instinct. And as a result of listening to things other than my intellect, A, I'm still around to tell the story, but B, I've made more and better decisions. The more I've connected with my team, the more I've connected with my partners, with using my intuition as to where to guide our whole tribe so that we all have a better quality of life and a higher standard of living. My intellect, which is what I did the first 20, 30 years, 20 years of this 30-year career, has been intellect only. And I didn't grow much. I didn't connect much. I didn't have a tribe of 10 years ago. I just had one tin soldier doing his fundability thing. But because I tapped into my intuition and tapped into my ability to communicate with others and build relationships and speak from the heart more and share from my crazy experience. You guys have seen this. I have crazy ass experiences. It's an adventurer's life. But what I wanted to share today is that because I did not listen to my mind. I didn't even listen to my heart. I listened to the pure gut reaction of, it's not okay to stay here. And I don't know why. Shut the hell up, brain. How many times have you had a gut level reaction to something and it paid off, or you were told to do something, you did it and it paid off, or you're told not to do something and you did it and you face planted, or you didn't do it and it was a win to stay out of that experience, engagement, partnership, business, whatever. You guys, in every way, I want you to focus on and tap into your intellect, but most of us don't have a problem spending our time there. So please go down your body, do a heart check, do a compassion check, do an intuition check. And then, more than anything else, I know you guys have as many or more experiences than I do, where your instinct saved your life, saved your marriage, your instinct saved one of your children, your instinct saved your business. So remember, operate from all three of these. Well, that's a triangle. Yeah, it's not a love, it's a triangle. How do we operate from all three of these centers of our life? To pull up to a village that we were just in the previous evening, and see a tank, and see two personnel carriers, and I don't know, 24 soldiers, and Mr. Gregarious, try to laugh it off, try and be sensitive, try to be kind, try to talk them up. It was the curtest, ugliest. It was literally like, turn around, go home. They wanted to make sure. And imagine pulling out the passports. Well, we're looking for our identification because this could get really real really fast. So no harm came to us, but we were the lucky ones. And I want you to make sure that you do everything in your power, meaning intellect, intuition, and instinct. Everything in your power to take care of you and your loved ones, take care of your business, because that's our baby, right? It's an extension of ourselves. This is Merrill Chandler, and I'm here to help you get funding more easily. But I'm also here to make sure that we raise our quality of life and our standard of living. And I'm make sure that we remind ourselves why we're doing all of this in the first place. You guys have a beautiful day.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast because we want them to get fundable too.